Here
we are continuing our series in the book of James. So if you want to open up your Bibles to James chapter 1, we'll be in verse 19 here in just a few minutes. I want to reiterate one of the things that Lauren said in the announcements about our communion experience. Have a neat communion experience today. There's kind of hands-on activities and stuff back at the table. So really want to encourage you to come down after service is over and experience that together. Communion is just such an important time, and we really wanted to give it more time because during our worship service, we get to spend just a couple minutes, but we really want, at least once a month to go back as a family and be able to experience things together. So like I said, I have some hands-on kind of things that we're going to be doing back there. I'm really excited about it this morning. So if you'd like to just walk straight down up the ramp and into the Family Life Center right after this is over, and we'll start there 10 minutes after worship. So, all right. I don't know if you know this or not, I'm sure you do, but we are living in what philosophers call an information paradox. An information paradox. We are drowning in information, but we're starving for knowledge. Do you feel that in our world? Do you sense that we're just overwhelmed? Like it's information overload, like our filter is broken. There's so much information that's flooding into our eyes and ears and mind all the time that it's hard to figure out what is truth and what is not, right? It's hard to figure out, well, which side should I be on, because there's just all this information that's flooding in all the time. Let me give you some examples of what's going on in our world today. Media has become simply an echo chamber. You've seen this, right? You experience this when you go on Facebook or you go on the internet or you even go on your news station of choice or whatever. The internet provides every possibility or every perspective imaginable, right? If you want to really believe something, you can find people on the internet that'll back you up, right? I mean, there is every theory known to man on the internet, and what I notice is I only see a little slice of it, right? Because media continually feeds me what I want to hear. It's interesting, isn't it? That slice is created to conform to my existing bias. It's funny how the internet always agrees with me. My feed on Instagram, it always gives me things that I want to hear. Even when I go on AI or something and I type in something, it goes, "Hey, that's a great question, Paul. And that's a great perspective." And I'm like, "Thank you, AI," or Miss Jackson, as we call it around our house, yeah, thank you, Miss Jackson. I appreciate that, that kind of thing, right? It just always gives me this perspective. Why does it do that? You have to ask, why does it do that? And there's one reason why, and that word is marketing. Marketing. Because if we can continually tell you what you want to hear, then we can sell you things, right? It's all about purchasing things. It's all about, in this consumeristic world that we live in, it's all about getting you to buy a certain thing and to buy into a certain ideology. Because if I can isolate you into a certain group, then you feel like that group is yours. Whether that's the conservative group or the liberal group or the whatever group, the environmentalist group or the whatever, whatever it is, right? If we can make you feel a part of the group, then when a certain insider has a book that they really want to promote, you're like, well, I'm a part of that group. I think I'll buy that. Or a product, I think I'll get that, right? It's all marketing. Neil Postman wrote a book called Amusing Ourselves to Death back in the 90s. Brilliant book, amusing ourselves to death. But he also wrote another book called How Not to Watch the Nightly News. And it's brilliant. All right, it's brilliant. All right, it's a little dated because it was written in the early '90s and stuff. But he totally saw what was on the horizon with social media and the internet and stuff like that. It's still, the principles still apply today. But what he talks about in that book, and it's so fascinating, is he said, "Do you know why they started to do 24-hour news cycles?" Like, I think CNN was the first to do a 24-hour news cycle. He goes through the history of how 24-hour news cycles came to be. He said, you know why? Because it's cheaper. It's the cheapest form of media possible. Because what we can do is, all we really need is a couple cameras and one or two news people and stuff, and we can just keep things cycling over and over and over. And why do we need 24-hour news cycles? Is it to really know the news? No. And he actually went through and saw, like, CEOs of these companies actually said this in writing. It's all about revenue that we gain from advertising. Because the more 24-hour news cycles, if we can keep the cost low of what it costs to produce media, then we can get more money from the advertisers and keep people engaged, because after all, what bleeds leads. And if there's no news, then we'll create news. All right, we will just create news, and we'll use different pictures, and we'll use different videos from other places and stuff to kind of format the news the way we want it, and we'll get people to tune in, because if they're scared, then they'll keep tuning in and going, what's next? What's going to happen next? It's like those shows, those sitcoms, or those movies that end on a cliffhanger that make you come back in the next, that always happened with was it the Lone Ranger that was always like that? Like, stay tuned next week for, you're like, come on. But that's what the news cycle does. Right before the commercial break, they'll leave you with, is the world going to end in the next 30 seconds? Stay tuned. You're like, oh no, I gotta keep tuning in, right? And if you really want to know who owns a news station, look at the commercials, because it's all about marketing. That's what Neil Postman talks about. If you disagree with me, talk to Neil Postman about it and stuff. Don't talk to me about it. But what I'm saying is, that's what it is. It's this form of media, and we think that it's actual news. We think we're getting the real deal. It's an entertainment industry to get us to buy things. It's marketing. And what they've done, and what the internet has done, is they figured out if we can isolate people into an echo chamber and pump in all of these things that they want to hear, and tell them constantly that they're right and they're so smart and all those other people are idiots, what they'll do is they'll buy more of your stuff, right? And so we live in this information paradox. We have information all over the place, but we're starved for knowledge. Number two, the paradox of choice. We are inundated with choice. You would think that more information about a product would lead to better decisions, but it doesn't. It creates paralysis of analysis. We get stuck in, is this the best choice? I don't know. Like, just the other day, I was on Amazon, right? And I was on Amazon, and I was trying to buy I'm not a gardener, I'm not an outdoors person, so I was trying to buy like a thing that picks the weeds, like you step on it and it does. I don't know what it does. Anyway, so I was trying to pick one, right? But I was like, well, there's 4,000 choices for the same product. And I was like, do I need a wooden handle? Do I need an aluminum handle? Do I need a titanium handle? Do I need one that's made from biodegradable? Do I need to make, and I was like, well, this one seems good, but that's $2 cheaper. Oh, that's good because I can get it for $2 cheaper, but does that mean it's going to be cheap and it's going to break on me? Oh, what's the warranty on this? Literally, I did that the other day. You know what I ended up doing? Hey, Melanie, can you get one of those weed things that get, And one came in immediately. She bought one, and one came in the next hour or something like that, I don't know, it was crazy. She's like a magician, But what happens is we lose the ability to trust our intuition, because there's so many choices out there, and every choice has a point, has a slither of truth in it, and we go, well, that sounds right. Yeah, but and it's hard to process all the things that we're constantly hearing, right? So what we do is we run over and we get into camps and we just trust the people around us. We say, no matter what they do or what they say, I'm just going to trust them because it's easier just to stay in a group than to think for myself. And it's information paradox. Number 3, there's information pollution going on. There's information pollution. With the rise of AI, we can produce massive amounts of information in seconds. Have you done this? Have you gone on ChatGPT or Gemini or all these others and just typed in something and just, it comes up with all this massive amount of information in seconds, and this has led to a flood of information and a bunch of noise on the internet. It's led to a bunch of noise. It's taking longer and it's more difficult to find truth in and among the noise. The background noise is becoming way too loud and the message is getting lost in it. We don't know what is true anymore. We are confused. We are discombobulated. We are disoriented in this world. And you know who loves that? Marketers. Because they can come in and say, are you feeling disoriented? Yes. Do you feel like you don't know where to go for truth? Yes. Buy my book, And you're like, I guess I need to buy that book, right? It's information pollution. We're overwhelmed with it. This is even happening in Christianity. We have Bible on our phones. We have sermons on our podcast. We have the theologian named Google at our fingertips. And what I want you to see is there is a massive difference between collecting data and being changed. There is a big difference between information and transformation, and that's what James is getting at. This thing that we're inundated with today is the same thing they were inundated with back then. And so today we're going to look at a blueprint of how to close that gap between what we hear on Sunday and how we live on Monday. All right. And I think James gives us some great insight into this. All right. So starting in verse 19, he says, my dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. When the Bible says take note of this, what do we need to do? We need to take note of it. Yes. Okay. And then he says, take note of this. And I don't really like this sentence, but I'm going to read it. Everyone should be quick to listen. I don't want to listen. Anyway. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth and the evil that is so prevalent, and humbly accept the word planted in you, which can save you. Listen to these words. He says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And do you know where most of our conflicts come from? Most of our conflicts come from when we flip the script, because most of us are quick to anger. At least I am some days, I get just angry at things, I'm just, I can't believe that. It's just quick. It's an emotion, right? We're lightning fast to speak and we're incredibly slow to listen. Doesn't that sound like our world? If we were honest, doesn't that sound like us? We just are so quick to react to things. We're so reactive. We just, this something goes wrong and we're like, and then we want to give a lecture or talk about it and all this other stuff. And then finally, we don't ever think to listen. A few months ago, Melanie and I got this thing called an Instapot. Have you seen this thing? This thing is crazy. All right, this thing is amazing. It cooks chicken in like 5 minutes. Right? You just put it in and you do that and it does some voodoo thing and then it goes bing and you're like, all right, it's amazing, right? It's amazing. But as I found out, if you don't want the thing to blow your face off, you have to release the valve and wait. You don't go, when it goes ding, you don't just go, I think I'm going to go get my chicken. Blah, it needs time to vent. Right? That's what it's called. That's the process that it's called. We're waiting basically for the Instapot to calm down. All right. It did some work and it was under extreme pressure, right? But we needed it to calm down. So when that ding happens, we go, right? And that smoke, goes up into the air and it's called venting. But doesn't that sound like you and me? I mean, human anger is like steam building up in a pot Most of us try to vent by yelling or speaking harshly, and we think that's going to release the pressure, but it really doesn't. It doesn't do that. We think if we can just vent, oh, I just need to go somewhere and tell, I need to call a friend up and just vent. I need to tell them what's going on. When I talk to a friend and I say I'm only venting, it does the opposite of calm me down, right? It does the opposite. It doesn't calm me down at all. It actually fires me up. It fires me up because my friend, trying to be a friend, always acts like AI. When I get on the phone and I'm like, can you believe what happened there? I can't believe they said that. And can you believe that church members all week long have been telling me that I can't spell science? From last week. Yeah. Can you believe that? Can't believe that. Well, I wonder what they could spell and blah, 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 blah. I don't hang up the phone, and I don't know why phones don't exist like that anymore. When I get on the phone, right, but I don't leave that conversation going, I feel better. What I leave is, I want them to talk to me. I want them to come up. And if they say this, I'm going to say this. I want them to say that. I want them to sit in that chair because I'm going to tell them, right? And I don't know about you, but I always have this in when I'm brushing my teeth in front of the bathroom mirror. I'm like, and another thing, I'll tell you another thing. I want this, and I'm just, have you ever played arguments in your head, right? Do you do this? I never do, but I'm just talking to you guys, right? But if they say this, I'm going to come back with this, and they don't have a right to blah, blah, blah. And we think that that's calming us down, but it actually fires us up. And what James is saying is hearing actually works as a release valve. Opening our ears actually is the release valve to our anger. When we truly listen to someone, we are turning down the heat on the stove. And our anger is like a faulty valve that explodes and can ruin everything, and it hurts people around us. And God's way is actually the steady, controlled simmer that gets the job done. What he's saying is, be slow to anger. Calm down. Calm down. Don't feel like you got to fill the void with words all the time. And man, I'm speaking to myself because I'm a preacher and I like words, right? Why say one word when 30 will do, right? I like words and I like arguments. I like debates and stuff, right? But if I would just stop and listen. Has that ever happened in your life? Where you've actually stopped and you've sought to understand before being understood, and you realize, I didn't understand what they were saying. Have you ever been in an argument with your spouse, and right in the middle of the argument, you realized you heard her wrong, and she actually said something different, and she's right and you're wrong, but now just pride makes you have to continue with the argument, right? Well, I got to win. I can't admit but if we would just listen longer, and that's the phrase, listen longer, seek to understand before being understood, and our anger will calm down. When we get curious about things, that's when our anger can come down. I wonder why they're doing that. I wonder why they're reacting that way. But we don't do that, do we? We assume, we fill the gap with suspicion. We go, I know why they're doing that. And they're doing it against me. We always get pretty self-centered, don't we? I know why that person's in a hurry and tried to cut me off in traffic. They don't like me. They're mad at me. Don't make it about you. Calm down. Not everything's about you, right? Now, I'm preaching to myself here on this one. I'm preaching to myself, definitely. But it's this idea of listen longer, be slow to speak and slow to become angry, and truly understand what's going on first. And I love that advice from James. He continues on. He says this, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Man, James has to be the bluntest author in Scripture, right? Everybody else is very ethereal and theological and stuff, and he's like, hey, don't just listen to the word and deceive yourselves, do what it says. Man, I love it. He says, anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in the mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. All right. A mirror has one job. A mirror has one job. When I look in the mirror in the morning, it has one job, and it is to tell me the truth. And I do not like the truth that it says some mornings, right? I get up. It does not flatter you, all right? Especially those mirrors. Does your wife have these mirrors that are like super like, not magnetic, but magnified? That's the word, right? Yeah, magnified, where you're like, oh. No, right? They tell too much truth, right? You know, I get up every morning and I do this. What in the world is going on under my eyes? And I do this thing and I'm like, you know, and stuff. And then, you know, and guys, you know what I'm talking about. Every once in a while you'll, looking good. Yeah, and then, but I'm doing this, right? It doesn't flatter. A mirror has one job, and that's to tell the truth. If your hair is a mess, the mirror is going to show you the mess. Don't have that problem, but you guys do, right? James says that if you hear the word but don't do it, you are like someone who looks in a mirror and you see the problem. You see the problem, and then you walk away and immediately forget what you look like. You see the problem, but you don't do anything about it, right? And I think there's two reasons we do this in our world. We do that for convenience and self-deception. First, convenience. It's easier to ignore the spinach in our teeth than to do something about it, right? We can see the problem, and a lot of us are good at seeing the problem, right? We can see problems all day long, and we love to point those out. We love it. It's like a pastime for us. Oh, well, look at that. Oh, see what they're doing over there, you know? Like one of my pastimes now that my kids are older and out of school, one of my favorite pastimes is judging parents with young kids and be like, I would totally do it better. That's not the way I do it. You know, like we see the problem, right? You know? No, I'm just kidding. I don't judge parents, you know? Yeah, a little bit. Anyway, but what I'm saying is it's convenience. It's easy to go around and see the problem, right? That's just convenience, but we don't want to do anything about it because that takes work. And then self-deception. We trick ourselves into think that knowing the truth is the same thing as obeying the truth. If I can just fill my head with all this knowledge, then I know what I need to do, right? But let me tell you, knowing and obeying are two different things. Knowing and knowing how to do it are two different things. I'll give you this example. And man, I should probably, this is tough to admit, but did you know that I have a master's degree in leadership development? I know, you're impressed, right? Yeah, I know. Yes, my office smells of mahogany. Yes, it's, I'm very important, But do you know what I am terrible at in ministry? Leadership development. Right? I am the worst at leadership, raising up leaders. That is an area, that is my Achilles heel, right? I have a degree in it, which meant I sat through the classes and I could write the paper and I could tell you all about leadership development. I read all the books, I did all the stuff, but doing it is completely different. Am I right? Don't we see this? But somehow we've been deceived thinking that, if I go through the right classes and I do the right things, after all, I have the certificate that says I went through that. After all, I have the degree, I have the, diploma that says I'm really good, but that doesn't mean we're good at it. But the doer is different. The doer doesn't just glance, but looks intently. They gaze to the point that they actually do something about it. And notice what it says. Here's a quick note. Notice it doesn't say they spend time looking at other people and what they need to do about it. It says they spend time looking at themselves and what they need to do about it. So let's finish up with verse 26. Those who consider themselves religious and yet do not keep a tight rein on their tongue deceive themselves, and their religion is worthless. Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. James concludes by defining what pure religion is. We can argue over religion all day long. We can say this denomination is right or this denomination's wrong and all that stuff. He's like, James, I love it. He says, let me boil it down for you real quick. If you really want to understand, if you truly understand the gospel, If you want to look in the mirror and say, do I understand what Jesus has called me to in my life? If you really want to understand this, here are 2 quick questions you need to ask yourself to see if you truly understand what the gospel is all about. Number 1, what are the words that come out of your mouth? Isn't that a tough question? What are the words that come out of your mouth? Our words are the leak that reveals the true state of our hearts. They are the leak that reveals the true state of our hearts. We can say, oh, I have it all together. I'm this, I'm spiritual, I this. But if we then turn around and curse other people and complain about this and gripe there and angry and fits of rage and all that other stuff, we can clearly see we got some work to do, right? So what are the words that are coming out of your mouth? If you can't keep your mouth in check, all the other religious stuff that you do is for naught. We're going to talk more about that as future sermons. James says more about that. He comes back to it. He says a little bit, then he comes back and goes, another thing. He'll come back here in a couple chapters and say something about that. But number 2, where does your feet take you in this world? Where does your feet take you in this world? Pure religion shows up in places that no one else wants to go. In that culture, it was the orphans and the distressed widows. That's how it translated itself. So where does your feet take you? Because here's what he's saying. It is easy to like a social media post for a children's home. It's another thing to adopt a kid who needs a home. It's easy to think the sermon was for someone else. It's another thing to say, where does this sermon hit me? It's easy to type a post or shoot a quick text to give your opinion on something. It's another thing to pray before you start typing. It's easy to formulate a response when someone is talking. It's another thing to say, tell me more. It's easy to go places that make us comfortable. It's another thing to get out of our comfort zone. Then at the end of that verse, James tells us to stay unpolluted from the world. And when I saw that, he wants us to engage in the world and stay unpolluted from the world. And my question was, well, which is it? Which is it, James? Which do you want us to do? Engage with the world and go to the places no one wants to go, or stay unpolluted from the world? And I think that's the dichotomy, that's the tension that we feel in this world, because as Christians, we are called to be like doctors in a viral ward. We go into the mess, we touch the pain, we help the hurting, but we don't let the infection of the world's greed, pride, and bitterness rub off on us. We bring the healing, we do not catch the disease. And we are called to go and engage with the world, but be unpolluted from the world, right? We're called to go into those places. The blessing isn't in the hearing. Verse 25 says that the man who acts will be blessed in his doing. God isn't looking for world-class scholars who can debate the Greek root words of things. He is looking for ordinary people who will hear a command to love your neighbor and actually go across the street and do it. That's what it's called to do. Now, is there anything wrong with learning Greek? Absolutely not. I think the more we learn the original language, the better we are prepared to do what he wants us to do and all those other things. But what I'm saying is, Christianity is not an intellectual exercise. A friend of mine told me this the other day. He says, Christianity sometimes is like a swimming school that doesn't have a swimming pool. And I thought that was so interesting. We get together and we love to talk about, what it would be like to swim, but we never actually go and swim. Francis Chan tells this story of, he says, he told his daughter one time to go clean her room. And he said this, what if she would come back and say, Dad, I memorized what you said. You said, go clean my room. In fact, I love you so much, Dad, that I've decided to create a small group once a week that meets in my room to talk about what it would be like if we cleaned the room. Dad, I love you so much that I even learned how to say clean your room in Greek. And what he's saying is, he goes, I would tell her, hey, I told you to clean your room. And in Christianity, God is telling us to clean our room. But yet we're like, well, when's the next Bible study going to be about that? Clean your room. Well, what is your eschatological view of end times? And well, let's debate whether it's free will or predestination. No. Look, like when people ask me that question, I say, look, I'm just trying to figure out how to love God and love my neighbor. And when I get that down, then I'll go to the other stuff. But until then, I'm still stuck there. And those are the two greatest commands, and that's what we're called to do. When he says, go clean your room, go clean your room. When he says, go into the world and tell people about Jesus, go into the world and tell people about Jesus. Well, the actual Greek word for go there is no. Go. I think sometimes these intellectual exercises that we get involved in are stall tactics that keep us huddled into our little groups going, well, I just don't understand enough to tell somebody. I don't really know enough yet. Yes, you do. If you heard the gospel and you've been baptized in the waters and you've been forgiven of your sins, you know enough to tell someone else. Well, Paul, I just feel so. No more stall tactics. That's what James is saying. No more stall tactics. Go into the world and be the church. That's what he's called us to do. And that's what we will be. So the spiritual practice this week is to don't just read the mirror, do what it says. If the word shows you a mess in your heart today, don't walk away. Stay there, ask for grace, and make the move. Let's pray. Father, forgive us for the stall tactics that we've used in our lives. Forgive us for the times that we've made Christianity an intellectual exercise instead of one of our whole being. Forgive us for the times that we have left religion and Christianity in the building, and then after we leave, we forget about it and go on with the quote-unquote practical things of our life. Father, may your word be infused in every area of our lives. May we be people who don't just hear the word, but do what it says, not because we're trying to earn favor with you or earn our salvation and all that other stuff. We love because you first loved us. And this is what you've called us to as disciples, Lord, and we will obey. Thank you for this church family. Thank you for the ways that they go out and share their faith and share their lives with others. Thank you for the ways that they serve one another and live into practical and pure religion and Christianity. Thank you for those things, Lord. I am so blessed to be a part of this congregation and to consider these people here brothers and sisters in Jesus. To you be praised. It's through your name. Amen.
I stand to praise you, but I fall to my